Our friend Scott Burnside, who right now is working with the LA Kings, joins us on the show. Scott, appreciate you hopping on, man. How's it going?
Yeah, it's like old times. You don't call, you don't write. Then you come to California and you're, creating havoc on the local golf courses. So that's good. I'm glad nothing has changed.
Yeah, still the same old stuff on our end. It's great to see you doing or working with the LA Kings for this playoff series. So we want to get the Kings' perspective on kind of how things have gone. And last night, I would imagine a bit of a heartbreaker, considering you only give up one goal. They seem to play their system the way they want to play their system, and it still wasn't enough against this Oilers team.
Yeah, no, there's no question that was, that one's going to sting. And, the series has been, I think really, you go back to the regular season too, there's lots of ups and downs for this Kings team. Jim Hiller comes in and takes over for Todd. And, I think they've really, struggled to find the consistency. I mean, obviously under Jim Hiller, they were able to right the ship. They make the playoffs, but there was been some wobbles, and I think those wobbles have continued into the series. And I think it's fair to say, the losses in games 1 and 3 were disappointing, right? That's not how the Kings want to play. And to your point, Game 4, absolutely. I've been working with Zach Dooley, who's terrific, and he's with the team all the time, and he said that was the best game they played in several months. So, to really find that game, I thought it was, no team is perfect and no game is perfect, and certainly when you don't score. But, to do all the things they had talked about, to finally bring that package together, he'll have 13 shots on goal. And of course, it comes down to special teams, right? And they couldn't score at 5-on-5. I think it's fair to say they've probably been at least as good as the Oilers at 5-on-5, and maybe a little bit better in terms of, pressuring and creating chances, those kinds of things. But the special teams has just been, it's been an absolute killer for the Kings. And it was in Game 4, Evan Bouchard, of course, scoring on the only power play opportunity the Oilers had, and as it turns out, the only power play opportunity they needed. Kings get one power play chance of their own. It's been a huge issue for them. They're 0 for 11 in the series. You combine that with the Oilers at 8 for 15, and that really is the series in a nutshell. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens to this team as they make their way to Edmonton for Game 5 on Wednesday. There's so much experience in that room, and really, when you think of it, not just experience in terms of winning, but obviously Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty and Trevor Lewis, multiple Cup winners, but also players who had experience in coming back in playoff series. Phil Deneau was in Montreal. He raced a 3-1 series deficit against Toronto 3 years ago. Of course, the Kings guys erased an 0-3 deficit against San Jose. So, I don't know whether it means anything, but certainly I think, the belief is the game is there. They found that game. Can you replicate it and just end up on the right side of the score? I don't know. That's, that to me, that's the real storyline of Game 5.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that their path to getting back into this series is to try replicate Game 4 as best as they can, and I guess just cross your fingers and hope you actually get the bounces? Or is there something else you think they need to add into their game to give themselves a better shot of winning the next handful here?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I think if you played that same way, you handled the Oilers in the way that you did, and again, the physicality I thought was there. I was just looking at the stats. They were now the stats, believe them or don't, but credited with 44 hits compared to 27 for the Oilers. I think of Drew Doughty's big hit on Zach Hyman. To me, that's, if you can play that way and have the puck as much as you did during that game, there's enough depth there. There's enough talent, I think, that you could rightfully expect that maybe you get a couple of bounces and maybe you end up on the other side of a low-scoring game, right? Certainly, Kings would take it any way it happened, but I don't think they're looking to have another 5-4 overtime win. I think the path for them is to, grind out a 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 win. And listen, you have to take advantage. You've got skilled players who, Kevin Fiala's, I think he's got the 1 goal. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 1 goal. Power play again. If you're 0 for 11, at some point you have to score if you're on the power play if you're going to get back in this series. So, but I do think at the heart of it, the style that they want to play, how they feel the best path to beat a very good Oiler team is what you saw in Game 4.
Is there someone that you think needs to step up the most for the Kings?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there is one, like, oh my gosh, if just Pierre-Luc Dubois was having a better series, this would be different. I don't know that it's like that. I thought last night it was such a this was for the first time, and Jim Hiller, he's gone with the 11 forwards. He basically sat Grundstrom, but last night was more a 4-line rolling. I thought the bottom 6 were excellent. I thought Trevor Lewis had a terrific game. Again, it's about controlling the tempo and creating chances with the forecheck. And I thought that all 4 lines were successful to some degree. When Jim Hiller was asked about it this morning, it's interesting. When the team had struggled during the regular season with the power play, Victor Arvidsson was out for a long time with injury, very difficult year for him, came back and then got hurt again. Obviously, he's been back in the lineup. I think it's been, I think the power play goes when he goes sometimes. And so that it's been a difficult series for him. So I guess I'm not sure that there's a one person, but for this team to move forward, and we saw it in Game 2, Anze Kopitar in Game 2 was a force, right? And he and Adrian Kempe were, such dynamic players in that game, staking the team to a 3-1 first period lead. And then, of course, Kopitar scoring the overtime winner. You need somebody to step up. I mean, that goes without saying. So, and there are lots of players on that team who I think have the ability to step up. Trevor Moore led the team in scoring during the regular season. It's been a bit of a difficult run for him in this series. So, there are guys, it's not like you're expecting somebody who got signed out of college or came up from the A to come in and, would you mind being the hero? I think the Kings believe that they have the talent in that lineup, and they have the depth within the lineup, that they can hang with the Oilers if they play their game. Then now you need someone who's actually going to score a goal, or 2, or whatever.
You've been obviously following this team now closely the entire first round, and we don't watch a ton of Kings hockey throughout the year, but you and I have both been really impressed with Jordan Spence so far in the series. He just seems like a real kind of, not diamond in the rough pull, but he seems like a guy who doesn't get a lot of love, is what I'm trying to say on that Kings blue line. But I think he's very effective. Is there someone, now that you've been covering this team for the last couple of weeks and you've gone a firsthand glance at practices in the games, that you have a new appreciation for maybe how good they are?
Yeah, and I think Jordan Spence is certainly one of those players. And he played a little bit with Drew Doughty down the stretch last night. Mikey Anderson, who has played with Doughty for several years, didn't play the last 6 or 7 minutes. Apparently not injured, but coach's decision sort of thing. But Jordan Spence got some looks up there. He plays with fire. He's a really interesting, smart kid. And I think the Kings imagine him in, kind of a Drew Doughty role moving forward, as Doughty and Kopitar, as you start to transition from those players. The other guy that it's been fun to talk to and to watch is the rookie Alex Laferriere, and playing in his first playoff series. He played a lot during the latter part of the season with Kopitar and Kempe. Again, it's sort of been blended around, but I really have been impressed with his play. And I talked to Ted Donato, who coached him at Harvard. There's a lot to like about Laferriere. And again, I think his future with the team, and he's acquitted himself very well in, a real high stakes situation, I think.
Well, excuse me. I think the interesting thing with Laferriere as well is you look at how many young players the Kings have have had. Like, what's his called? Turcotte was
Yeah.
supposed to be like the star
pan out.
player, right? Arthur Kaliev was supposed to be that guy, but Laferriere has beat those guys out and has become a top 6 player for this team. I think he's stood out a ton as well in the series.
Yeah, he's been excellent. Scott, you are the king of dive bars. You've been out in California for a few weeks. Have you found one that is up to your standards?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. Yes, in fact, I had some of the Edmonton writers out. We watched some hockey the other night. It's a great little place in Old El Segundo called the Old Town Patio. I think that's right. Good, beautiful sort of back patio, cash only. People are super friendly. It's like it's a total locals bar. There was a 60th birthday party going on in when we were there on Saturday night, and people are exceedingly friendly, put the games on for us, no problem at all. Has a jukebox. I mean, I played a little Tragically Hip just to make the boys feel at home, and but it was good. It's been really it's nice, right? It's I don't get to California too much anymore, so it's been fun to find a good local hangout.
Love it. Had to get that question in before we let you go, Scott. It's been fun seeing your work with the Kings. We'll chat soon. Thanks for doing this.
Anytime.
There you go. Scott Burnside. He's doing some work with the LA Kings. Fantastic stuff. You can just go to their Twitter feed and see a ton of it too. You can follow Scott Burnside on Twitter as well. Good to catch up with Scotty B. Before we wrap up the show, a big shout out once again to our friends at Boston Pizza. Oilers back at home on Wednesday. Wing Wednesday.
Cheesecake Wednesday.
Ooh, wings and cheesecake. What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.